Welcome to Climate Quickies, bite-sized nuggets of climate goodness from our TEDxLondon experts in under 5 minutes.
In this week's Climate Curious, recorded live at TED, we're back with our old friend and lawyer turned artist extraordinaire, Xavier Cortada. He's joining us to update us on how his community-led art projects are going in Miami and across Florida. Over to Xavier to share how he's raising awareness about alarmingly fast rising sea levels. Stay curious.
Xavier, I got to see your TED countdown talk about, I would say, almost a year and a half ago, maybe even a little bit more, and I was totally blown away. We've had you on the podcast before. You work in Miami, and you work really with the community, and I'm just wondering whether for people who haven't maybe seen your work before, you could just give us like a 1-minute snippet of to capture some of what you're focusing on at the moment.
Sure. I use socially engaged art, participatory art, to help people visualize their climate vulnerability. And one of the projects that I focus on is called The Underwater, and it's basically about having people write down the elevation of their property and with incredible vulnerability, put it in their front lawn to spark conversations that would have otherwise not happened, and to incentivize those people having the conversations, you and your neighbor,
Right.
to begin to engage in some actions to help address that vulnerability, sea level rise.
Right. So I got to go to Miami for the first time this year, which was just such a beautiful place. And
Thank you.
And I was thinking about your work, and I was thinking about how everyone here must be up in arms at the possibility or the certainty that they're going to lose so much of this beautiful ecosystem, environment, their own properties, all of it. You know, I got to drive down Key West, and nature is right there.
Yes. You'd be surprised. They actually aren't up in arms, and they are lulled by the beauty, but more than by the beauty, I think by the incredible amount of investment and development that is taking place.
Right.
Seeing skyscrapers towering everywhere, being built. In fact, I joke that our state bird is the crane, and I don't mean one with feathers, I mean a builder's crane.
I think we have that in London too.
Yes, seriously. Well, so we have this incredible vulnerability, but we keep on investing, and I think it's just part of the short-sighted, instant gratification way of looking at life. In other words, if you get your return on your investment in a couple of years, you're okay with building because some other person is going to be left holding the bag. The problem is that the people who live in Miami don't understand that there are two timelines. Theirs, which is, a 30-year mortgage that may not have insurance to cover it, that will have sea level rise issues, flood costs. They don't realize that they're living on two separate timelines, and that's part of what my art attempts to address, so that you can really see your vulnerability even if you're farther from the coastline. So,
if I'm driving through one of the communities you work with, what am I going to see?
You're going to see street intersections painted with the elevation. You're going to see a bus, perhaps, that has been wrapped in art showcasing QR codes and asking you to find out what your property's elevation is by scanning that QR code. You're going to go to schools, and you're going to see murals in schools all over Broward County, so that every single student in that school, for the first time ever, is aware how many feet above sea level that school is, and a QR code next to it, so that they can find out what their home address is. You're going to go to parks by the end of this year. Every single park, 287 of them, in Miami-Dade County will have a sculpture with the number, the elevation of that park, so that an onlooker, somebody tossing a ball, will see that number and go, what's this number 8 doing here in the middle of my park? And when they scan the QR code, they realize that that's the elevation of that park. And again, they're prompted to figure out what the elevation of the property is. I'm trying to make sea level rise impossible to ignore in a place that has most of the people with their head in the sand and ignoring the issue.
And because sea level rise is going to be one of the primary issues that you're going to face as the climate continues.
We are. The highest elevation in Miami is 20 feet above sea level.
Wow.
If we continue business as usual, scientists predict that up to 6 or 7 feet of sea level rise will occur by the end of this century, which means that more than half of Miami
Yeah.
will be submerged, but also our economy will be tanked, and our
Yes.
septic tanks won't work, and the ground.
Yeah.
I mean, all the
It's
other
so much more,
catastrophic
yeah.
effects to the ecosystems, and I worry about that. So I'm trying to figure out how we can create a cadre of engaged, science-literate citizens who understand the consequences, so that they can begin acting on it.
So I have so many questions, but let me ask you, you're an artist. How did you get here to this work and engaging in this way with communities?
I think it's because I was born in this era. Had I been born 100 years ago, art would be about object making. It would be
Right.
about trying to use my hands. But art is about ideas. Art is about communicating those ideas, engaging people. And my particular form of art is about motivating people to tap into their own creativity, right? So that their ideas can permeate. And right now, I'm trying to animate democracy. I'm trying to inspire society through this creative process called art. So I think I'm doing my job as an artist. My job as an artist is to help us reframe the way we see things. It helps us connect to one another. It helps us bring meaning to our lives. And it helps tap into our own creativity so that we have voice. And that brings me joy as an artist.
That's incredible. And so this is no small feat, what you're trying to do. Thank you so much.
Sure, it's my pleasure.
Thanks for listening to this quickie.
This episode was created by our superstar podcast team at TEDxLondon. Until next time.
Stay curious.